Hey crew, it is Ben and I am back with some more philosophy. Today we are diving back into the works of Friedrich Nietzsche. This is Thus Spake Zarathustra. We are reading aloud and discussing as we go along the works, and we are trying to get a little peek into the mind of someone who at least recorded what he was thinking for us. If you are unfamiliar with me, any of my unconventional beliefs, or if at any point in time you get lost in the sauce, there are several playlists that are linked in the corner up here in the box down below, along with the source material, so that you can get some clarification. I tend to put the definitions towards the beginning of the playlist. With that being said, we are going to dive into part 3 of Friedrich Nietzsche's Thus Spake Zarathustra. I think this is 39. My Roman numerals are not the best, but I'm pretty sure that we're at 39. The Bedwarfing Virtue. Let's go. When Zarathustra was again on the continent, he did not go straightway to his mountains and his cave, but made many wanderings and questionings, and ascertained this and that, so that he said of himself jestingly, Lo, a river goes, a river that floweth back unto its source in many windings. For he wanted to learn what had taken place among men during the interval, whether they had become greater or smaller. And once, when he saw a row of new houses, he marveled and said, What do these houses mean? Verily, no great soul put them up as its simile. Did perhaps a silly child take them out of its toy box? Would that another child put them again in the box. And these rooms and chambers, can men go out and in there? They seem to be made for silk dolls or for dainty eaters, who perhaps let others eat with them. And Zarathustra stood still and meditated. At last he said sorrowfully, There hath everything become smaller. Everywhere do I see lower doorways. He who is of my type can still go there through, but he must stoop. Oh, when shall I arrive again at my home, where I shall no longer have to stoop, before the small ones? And Zarathustra smiled and gazed into the distance. The same day, however, he gave his discourse on the bedwarfing virtue. I pass through this people and keep mine eyes open. They do not forgive me for not envying their virtues. They bited me, because I say unto them that for small people small virtues are necessary, and because it is hard for me to understand that small people are necessary. Here am I, still like a cock in a strange farmyard, at which even the hens peck. But on that account I am not unfriendly to the hens. I am courteous towards them, as towards all small annoyances. To be prickly towards what is small seemeth to me wisdom for hedgehogs. They all speak of me when they sit around their fire in the evening. They speak of me, but no one thinketh of me. This is the new stillness which I have experienced. Their noise around me spreadeth a mantle over my thoughts. They shout to one another, What is this gloomy cloud about to do to us? Let us see that it doth not bring a plague upon us. And recently did a woman seize upon her child that was coming unto me. Take the children away, cried she, such eyes scorch children's souls. They cough when I speak. They think coughing an objection to strong winds. They divine nothing of the boisterousness of my happiness. We have not yet time for Zarathustra. So they object, but what matter about time that hath no time for Zarathustra? And if they should altogether praise me, how could I go to sleep on their praise? A girdle of spines is their praise unto me, it scratcheth me even when I take it off. And this also did I learn among them. The praiser doeth as if he gave back. In truth, however, he wanteth more to be given him. Ask my foot if their lauding and luring strains pleases it. Verily, to such measure and tic-tac it liketh neither to dance nor to stand still. To small virtues would they fain lure and laud me. To the tic-tac of small happiness would they fain persuade my foot. I pass through this people and keep mine eyes open. They have become smaller, and ever the smaller. The reason thereof is their doctrine of happiness and virtue. For they are moderate also in virtue, because they want comfort. With comfort, however, moderate virtue is only is compatible. To be sure, they also learn in their way to stride on and stride forward. That I call their hobbling. Thereby they become a hindrance to all who are in haste, and many of them go forward and look backwards thereby with stiffened necks. Those do I like to run up against. Foot and eye shall not lie, nor give the lie to each other, but there is much lying among small people. Some of them will, but most of them are willed. Some of them are genuine, but most of them are bad actors. There are actors without knowing it amongst them, and actors without intending it. The genuine ones are always rare, especially the genuine actors. Of man there is little here, therefore do their women masculinize themselves. For only he who is man enough will save the woman in woman. And this hypocrisy found I worst among them, that even those who command feign the virtues of those who serve. I serve, thou serve, we serve. So chanteth here even the hypocrisy of the rulers. And alas, if the first lord be only the first servant. Even upon their hypocrisy did mine eyes' curiosity alight, and well did I divine all their fly happiness, all their buzzing sounds around sunny window panes. So much kindness, so much weakness do I see, so much justice and pity, so much weakness. Round, fair, and considerate are they to one another, as grains of sand are round, fair, and considerate to grains of sand. Modestly to embrace a small happiness, that do they call submission, and at the same time they peer modestly after a new small happiness. In their hearts they want simply one thing most of all, that no one hurt them. Thus do they anticipate everyone's wishes, and do well unto every one. That, however, is cowardice, though it be called virtue. And when they chance to speak harshly, those small people, then do I hear therein only their hoarseness. Every draught of air makes it them hoarse. Shrewd indeed are they, their virtues have shrewd fingers, but they lack fists. Their fingers do not know how to creep behind fists. Virtue for them is what maketh modest and tame. Therewith they have made the wolf a dog, and man's himself man's best domestic animal. We set our chair in the midst, so says their smirking unto me, and as far from dying gladiators as from satisfied swine. That, however, is mediocrity, though it be called moderation. I pass through this people, and let fall many words, but they neither know how to take nor how to retain them. They wonder why I came not to revile venery and vice, and verily I came not to warn against pickpockets either. They wonder why I am not ready to abet and whet their wisdom, as if they had not yet enough of wiseacres, whose voices grate on mine ears like slate pencils. And when I call out, curse all the cowardly devils in you, that would fain whimper and fold the hands and adore, then do they shout, Zarathustra is godless. And especially do their teachers of submission shout this, but precisely in their ears do I love to cry, Yea, I am Zarathustra, the godless. Those teachers of submission, wherever there is aught puny or sickly or scabby, there do they creep like lice, and only my disgust preventeth me from cracking them. Well, this is my sermon for their ears. I am Zarathustra the godless, who saith, Who is more godless than I, that I may enjoy his teaching? I am Zarathustra the godless. Where do I find mine equal? And all those are mine equals who give unto themselves their will, and divest themselves of all submission. I am Zarathustra the godless. I cook every chance in my pot, and only when it hath been quite cooked do I welcome it as my food. And verily many a chance came imperiously unto me, but still more imperiously did my will speak unto it. Then did it lie imploringly upon its knees, imploring that it might find home and heart with me, and say flatteringly, See, O Zarathustra, how friend only cometh unto friend. But why talk I when no one hath mine ears, and so will I shout it out unto the winds. Ye ever become smaller, ye small people, ye crumble away, ye comfortable ones, ye will yet perish. By your many small virtues, by your many small omissions, and by your many small submissions. Too tender, too yielding, so is your soil. But for a tree to become great, it seeketh to twine hard roots around hard rocks. Also, what ye omit weaveth at the web of all the human feature. Even your naught is a cobweb, and a spider that liveth on the blood of the future. And when ye take, then is it like stealing, ye small virtuous ones. But even among knaves, honor saith that one shall only steal when one cannot rob. It giveth itself, but is also a doctrine of submission. But I say unto you, ye comfortable ones, that it taketh to itself, and it will ever take more and more from you. Oh, that you would renounce all half willing, and would decide for idleness as ye decide for action. Ah, that ye understood my words. Do ever what ye will, but first be such as can will. Love ever your neighbor as yourselves, but first be such as love themselves. Such as love with great love, such as love with great contempt. Thus speaketh Zarathustra, the godless. But why talk I when no one hath mine ears? It is still an hour too early for me here. Mine own forerunner am I among this people, mine own cockcrow in dark lanes. But their hour cometh, and there cometh also mine. Hourly do they become smaller, poorer, unfruitfuler, poor herbs, poor earth. And soon shall they stand before me like dry grass and prairie, and verily, weary of themselves and panting for fire more than for water. O blessed hour of the lightning, O mystery before noontide! Running fires will I one day make of them, and heralds with flaming tongues. Heralds shall they one day with flaming tongues. It cometh, it is nigh, the great noontide. Thus spake Zarathustra. And here we have a lesson. And the lesson is that you cannot communicate effectively with those who you are judging. It is easy to consider yourself as above someone else because of the way that you act according to your morals. You stand firmly in them. I know this. But it is not easy to keep open that not everybody has the same level of understanding that you do. We talk here often about levels of understanding, not necessarily in this playlist, but definitely in some of the others. You are responsible for the level of understanding that you have. You are responsible for the things that you know, but you are not responsible for the things that you do not know. And so, if someone is uninformed, the best way to tell them is not to tell them at all, but rather to show them. Because when you start telling someone, hey, you're doing something wrong, they get defensive. They get bucked up about it. They want to fight. They want to argue. They want to scream and talk smack. Instead, you become the example. You become the compassionate example. You become someone who is trying to understand them. And I do not think that Nietzsche was quite there. He tried to understand thoughts, but he tried to understand thoughts and shove them into his box, as opposed to understanding them in the box that they are. It is true, there are small people. There are people who are perfectly content going through their entire life living in the way that they are not intended to live. And that makes them small people, but that does not mean that they are destined to remain that way. It does not mean that they have no other hope or recourse. They need an example. They need somebody to be there and not judge them in it, but rather show them that there is another path, and that is where he fails. It is easy, when you have discovered better, to hit people in the head and be like, hey, that's not right according to my morals. But it is much harder to accept that maybe your morals aren't the only ones. There are other moral systems than the one that you grew up in, several of them, many of them as a matter of fact, and some of them are completely removed from everything that you knew, everything that you thought about, everything that you know. That doesn't mean they're wrong. Doesn't mean that you're wrong. It means that you have different paths. And that while there are objectively things that are wrong, right? Stealing, killing, those things we all as humanity know are wrong. But there are other things that are a little less firm, right? What you prefer to do with your genitalia. That's that's not up for me to decide, right? I can decide what to do with my genitalia, but I have no reason or any right whatsoever to judge you for what you do with yours. I can disagree with it. I can say that it's a bad idea, but I'm not trying to hammer you in the head with it. We talk about all the time about life is about moderation. It is not about exclusion, and that is the integral part of this. Nietzsche thought that exclusion was the way to go. He has been quite clear about that all the way through this. If you don't walk my path, you're walking the wrong path. I don't necessarily agree with that. There are several paths, and while there are morally objective truths, there are a lot more subjective ones than there are objective ones. L, which is 40 or 50. I may have been wrong on my count. I think L is 50, right? On the Olive Mount. I was like L on the Olive Mount. Somebody took a loss. Winter, a bad guest, sitteth with me at home. Blue are my hands with his friendly handshaking. I honor him, that bad guest, but gladly leave him alone. Gladly do I run away from him, and when one runneth well, then one escapeth him. With warm feet and warm thoughts do I run where the wind is calm to the sunny corner of mine Olive Mount. There do I laugh at my stern guest, and am still fond of him, because he cleareth my house of flies, and quieteth many little noises. For he suffereth it not if a gnat wanteth to buzz, or even two of them. Also the lanes maketh he lonesome, so that the moonlight is afraid there at night. A hard guest is he, but I honor him, and do not worship, like the tenderlings, the pot-bellied fire idol. Better even a little teeth chattering than idle adoration. So willeth my nature, and especially have I a grudge against all ardent, steamy fire idols. Him whom I love better in winter than in summer. Better do I now mock at mine enemies, and more heartily than winter sitteth in my house. Heartily, verily, even when I creep into bed, there still laugheth and wantoneth my hidden happiness, even my deceptive dream laugheth. I, a creeper? Never in my life did I creep before the powerful, and if ever I lied, then did I lie out of love. Therefore am I glad even in my winter bed. A poor bed warmeth me more than a rich one, for I am jealous of my poverty, and in winter she is most faithful unto me. With a wickedness do I begin every day. I mock at the winter with a cold bath. On that account grumbleth my stern housemate. Also do I like to tickle him with a wax taper, that he may finally let the heavens emerge from ashy gray twilight. For especially wicked am I in the mornings, at the early hour when the pail rattleth at the whale, and horses neigh warmly in gray lanes. Impatiently do I then wait that the clear sky may finally dawn for me, the snow-bearded winter sky, the hoary one, the whitehead, the winter sky, the silent winter sky, which often stifleth even its sun. Did I perhaps learn from it the long clear silence, or did it learn it from me? Or hath each of us devised it himself? Of all good things the origin is 1,000-fold. All good roguish things spring into existence for joy. How could they always do so for once only? A good roguish thing is also the long silence, and to look, like the winter sky out of a clear, round-eyed countenance. Like it to stifle one's sun and one's inflexible solar will. Verily, this art and this winter roguishness have I learnt well. My best loved wickedness and art is it that by silence hath learned not to betray itself by silence. Clattering with diction and dice, I outwit these solemn assistants, all those stern watchers, shall my will and purpose elude. that no one might see down into my depth and into mine ultimate will. For that purpose did I devise the long, clear silence. Many a shrewd one did I find. He veiled his countenance and made his waters muddy, that no one might see therethrough and thereunder. But precisely unto him came these shrewder distrusters and nutcrackers. Precisely from him did they fish his best concealed fish. But the clear, the honest, the transparent, these are for me the wisest silent ones. In them so profound is the depth that even the clearest water doth not betray it. Thou, snow-bearded, silent winter sky, thou, round-eyed whitehead above me, O thou, heavenly simile of my soul and its wantonness! And must I not conceal myself like those who hath swallowed gold, lest my soul should be ripped up? Must I not wear stilts, that they may overlook my long legs, all those enviers and injurers around me? Those dingy, fire-warmed, used-up, green-tinted, ill-natured souls. How could their envy endure my happiness? Thus do I show them only the ice and winter of my peaks, and not that my mountain windeth all the solar girdles around it. They hear only the whistling of my winter's storms, and know not that I also travel over warm seas like longing, heavy, hot south winds. They commiserate also my accidents and chances, but my word saith, Suffer the chance to come unto me. Innocent is it as a little child. How could they endure my happiness if I did not put around it accidents, and winter privations, and bearskin caps, and mantling snowflakes? If I did not myself commiserate their pity, the pity of those enviers and injurers? If I did not myself sigh before them, and chatter with cold, and patiently let myself be swathed in their pity? This is the wise, waggish will and good will of my soul, that it concealeth not its winters and glacial storms. It concealeth not its chilblains either. To one man, lonesomeness is the flight of the sick one. To another, it is the flight from the sick ones. Let them hear me chattering and sighing with winter cold, all those poor squinting knaves around me. With such sighing and chattering do I flee from their heated rooms. Let them sympathize with me and sigh with me on account of my chilblains. At the ice of knowledge will he yet freeze to death. So they mourn. Meanwhile do I run with warm feet hither and thither on mine olive mount. In the sunny corner of mine olive mount do I sing and mock at all pity. Thus sang Zarathustra. And here we get a reiteration of him being superior to everyone around him. My discipline is better than yours. I get up every morning in the cold and I don't even light a fire. I get in the water and I bathe in the cold because I am better than you. That was basically the whole of that passage. It is a common theme so far that he considers himself better. He does. He considers my thoughts to be better than your thoughts. My morals are better than your morals. My actions are better than your actions. My discipline is better than your discipline. And he has repeated that all the way through this. And he wonders why he was alone. On passing by. 41. Thus, slowly wandering. That's got to be 51, right? It's got to be 50. Thus, slowly wandering through many peoples and diverse cities, did Zarathustra return by roundabout roads to his mountains and his cave. And behold, thereby came he unawares also to the gate of the great city. Here, however, a foaming fool with extended hands sprang forward to him and stood in his way. It was the same fool whom the people called the ape of Zarathustra, for he had learned from him something of the expression and modulation of language, and perhaps liked also to borrow from the store of wisdom. And the fool talked thus to Zarathustra. O Zarathustra, here is the great city. Here hast thou nothing to seek, and everything to lose. Why wouldst thou wade through this mire? Have pity upon thy foot, spit rather on the gate of the city, and turn back. Here is the hell for anchorites' thoughts. Here are great thoughts seethed, alive, and boiled small. Here do all great sentiments decay. Here may only rattle-bone sensations rattle. Smellest thou not already the shambles and cookshops of the spirit? Steameth not the city with the fumes of the slaughtered spirit? Seest thou not the souls hanging like limp, dirty rags? And they make newspapers also out of these rags. Hearest thou not how spirit hath here become a verbal gain? Loathsome verbal still swill doth it vomit forth, and they make newspapers also out of this verbal swill. They hound one another, and know not whither. They inflame one another, and know not why. They tinkle with their pinchbeck, and they jingle with their gold. They are cold, and seek warmth from distilled waters. They are inflamed, and seek coolness from frozen spirits. They are all sick and sore through public opinion. All lusts and vices are here at home, but here there are also the virtuous. There is much appointed virtue. Much appointable virtue, with scribed fingers and hearty sitting flesh and waiting flesh, blessed with small breast stars and padded, hunchless daughters. There is here also much piety, and much faithful spittle-licking and spittle-backing before the God of hosts. From on high drippeth the star and the gracious spittle, for the high longeth every starless bosom. The moon hath its court, and the court hath its moon calves. Unto all, however, that cometh from the court do the mendicant people pray, and all appointable mendicant virtues. I serve, thou serve, we serve, so prayeth all appointable virtue to the prince, that the merited star may at last stick on the slender breast. But the moon still revolveth around all that is earthly, so revolveth also the prince around what is earthliest of all. That, however, is the gold of the shopman. The god of the host of war is not the god of the golden bar. The prince proposeth, but the shopman disposeth. By all that is luminous, and strong, and good in thee, O Zarathustra, spit on this city of shopmen, and return back. Here floweth all blood, putridly and tepidly and frothily through all veins. Spit on the great city, which is the great slum, where all the scum frotheth together. Spit on the city of compressed souls and slender breast, of pointed eyes and sticky fingers. On the city of the obtrusive, the brazen-faced, the pen demagogues, and the tongue demagogues, and the overheated ambitious. Where everything maimed, ill-famed, lustful, untrustful, over-mellow, sickly yellow, and seditious, festereth pernicious. Spit on the great city and turn back. Here, however, does Zarathustra interrupt the foaming fool and shut his mouth. Stop this at once, called out Zarathustra. Long have thy speech and thy species disgusted me. Why didst thou live so long by the swamp, that thou thyself hadst to become a frog and a toad? Floweth there not a tainted frothy swamp blood in thine own veins, when thou hast learned to croak and revile? Why wentest thou not into the forest, or why didst thou not till the ground? Is the sea not full of green islands? I despise thy contempt, and when thou warnest me, why didst thou not warn thyself? Out of love alone shall my contempt and my warning bird take wing, but not out of the swamp. They call thee mine ape, thou foaming fool, but I call thee my grunting pig. By thy grunting thou spoilest even my praise of folly. What was it that first made thee grunt? Because no one sufficiently flattered thee? Therefore did thou seat thyself beside this filth, that thou mightest have cause for much grunting, that thou mightest have cause for much vengeance. For vengeance, thou vain fool, is all thy foaming. I have divined thee well. But thy fool's words injureth me, even when thou art right, and even if Zarathustra's word were 100 times justified, thou wouldst ever do wrong with my word. Thus spake Zarathustra. Then did he look on the great city and sighed, and was long silent. At last he spake thus: I loathe also this great city, and not only this fool. Here and there is nothing to better, nothing to worsen. Woe to this great city, and I would that I already saw the pillar of fire in which it will be consumed. For such pillars of fire must precede the great noontide, but this hath its own time and its own fate. This precept, however, I give unto thee, in parting, thou fool. Where one can no longer love, there should one pass by. Thus spoke the Zarathustra, and passed by the fool and the great city. And again we get to see Nietzsche's propensity for isolating himself from those that he disdained. Right? It is an easy thing for me to understand because I like to be isolated right here in my little spot. I don't like going out amongst the fools of the world. That is an absolute truth. I have very little tolerance for ignorance. Like, not for being ignorant, but for refusing to remedy that situation. I have very little tolerance for willful ignorance. I have a propensity to be mean whenever I encounter it. If you come at me and you're like, this is true, and it's absolutely not, I have a tendency to want to make fun of you and to ridicule you and demean you and all of those things. And I have that to overcome within myself. And in part, that is the man-ape. But it does not appear that Zarathustra, Nietzsche, really felt that way, right? He was perfectly content being disdainful. He was perfectly content considering himself above others, and that is a problem. That is why he wound up alone. 52. The apostates. Lieth everything already withered and grey, but which lately stood green and many-hued on this meadow. And how much of honey of hope did I carry hence into my beehives? Those young hearts have already all become old, and not old even, old, weary, ordinary, comfortable. They declare it we have again become pious. Of late did I see them run forth at early morn with valorous steps. But the feet of their knowledge became weary, and now they do malign even their morning valor. Verily, many of them once lifted their legs like the dancer, to them winked the laughter of my wisdom. Then did they bethink themselves. Just now I have seen them bent down to creep to the cross. Around light and liberty did they once flutter like gnats and young poets, a little older, a little colder, and already they are mystifiers and mumblers and mollycoddles. Did, perhaps, their hearts despond because lonesomeness had swallowed me like a whale? Did their ear, perhaps, hearken yearningly long for me in vain, and for my trumpet notes and herald calls? Ha! Ever are there but a few of those whose hearts have persistent courage and exuberance, and in such remaineth also the spirit patient. The rest, however, are cowardly. The rest. These are always the great majority, the commonplace, the superfluous, the far too many. These all are cowardly. Him, who is of my type, will also the experiences of my type meet along the way, so that his first companions must be corpses and buffoons. His second companions, however, they will call themselves his believers, will be a living host, with much love, much folly, much unbearded veneration. To those believers shall he, who is of my type among men, not bind his heart. In those springtimes and many-hued meadows shall he not believe, who knoweth the thickly faint-hearted human species. Could they do otherwise? Then would they also will otherwise. The half and half spoil every whole. That leaves become withered. What is there to lament about that? Let them go and fall away, O Zarathustra, and do not lament. Better even to blow amongst them with rustling winds. Blow amongst those leaves, O Zarathustra, that everything withered may run away from thee the faster. We have again become pious. So do those apostates confess, and some of them are still too pusillanimous thus to confess. Unto them I look into the eye, before them I say it unto their face, and unto the blush on their cheeks, Ye are those who again pray. It is, however, a shame to pray, not for all, but for thee and me, and whoever hath his conscience in his head. For thee it is a shame to pray. What? Thou knowest it well, the faint-hearted devil in thee, which would fain fold its arms, and place its hands on his bosom, and take it easier. This faint-hearted devil persuadeth thee that there is a God. Thereby, however, dost thou belong to the light-dreading type, to whom light never permitteth repose. Now must thou daily thrust thy head deeper into obscurity and vapor. And verily, thou choosest the hour well, for just now do the nocturnal birds fly again abroad. The hour hath come for all light-dreading people, the vesper hour and leisure hour, when they do not take leisure. I hear it and smell it, it hath come, their hour for hunt and procession, not indeed for a wild hunt, but for a tame, lame, snuffling, soft treaders, soft prayers hunt. For a hunt after susceptible simpletons, all mousetraps for the heart have again been set, and whenever I lift a curtain, a night moth rusheth out of it. Did it perhaps squat there along with another night moth? For everywhere do I smell small concealed communities, and wherever there are closets there are new devotees therein, and the atmosphere of devotees. They sit for long evenings beside one another and say, Let us again become like little children, and say, Good God, ruined in mouths and stomachs by the pious confectioners. Or they look for long evenings at a crafty, lurking, cross spider, that preachereth prudence unto the spiders themselves, and teacheth that under crosses it is good for cobweb spinning. Or they sit all day at swamps with angle rods, and on that account think themselves profound. But whoever fisheth where there are no fish, I do not even call him superficial. Or they learn in godly gay style to play the harp with a hymn poet, who would fain harp himself into the hearts of young girls, for he hath tired of old girls and their praises. Or they learn to shudder with a learned semi-madcap, who waiteth in dark rooms for spirits to come to him, and the spirit runneth away entirely. Or they listen to an old roving howl and growl piper, who hath learned from the sad winds the sadness of sounds. Now pipeth he as the wind, and preacheth sadness in sad strains. And some of them have even become night watchmen. They know now how to blow horns, and go about at night and awaken old things which have long fallen asleep. 5 words about old things that I hear yesternight at the garden wall. They came from such old, sorrowful, arid night watchmen. For a father he careth not sufficiently for his children. Human fathers do this better. He is too old. He now careth no more for his children, answered the other night watchman. Hath he then children? No one can prove it unless he himself prove it. I have long wished that he would, for once, prove it thoroughly. Prove! As if he had ever proved anything. Proving is difficult to him. He layeth great stress on one's believing him. Aye, belief saveth people, belief in him. That is the way with old people, so it is with us also. Thus spake to each other the 2 old night watchmen and light scarers, and tooted thereupon sorrowfully on their horns. So did it happen yesternight at the garden wall. To me, however, did the heart writhe with laughter, and was like to break, and it knew not where to go, and sunk into the midriff. Verily, it will be my death yet to choke with laughter when I see asses drunken, and hear night watchmen thus doubt about God? Hath the time not long since passed for all such doubts? Who may nowadays awaken such old slumbering light shunning things? With the old deities hath it long since come to an end, and verily a good, joyful deity end had they. They did not begloom themselves to death that do people fabricate. On the contrary, they laughed themselves to death once upon a time. That took place when the ungodliest utterance came from a God himself, the utterance, "There is but one God, thou shalt have no other gods before me." An old grim beard of God, a jealous one, for God himself in such wise. And all the gods then laughed, and shook upon their thrones, and exclaimed, Is it not just divinity that there are gods, but no God? He that hath an ear, let him hear. Thus talked Zarathustra in the city he loved, which is named the Pied Cow. For from here he had but 2 days to travel to reach once more his cave and his animals. His soul, however, rejoiced unceasingly on account of the nighness of his return home. And here again we get the doubt of Nietzsche. Right? He has made zero qualms so far about stepping on the toes of Christianity, which he is definitely doing here. He talks about the people who claim to be pious and who are not. They are instead spinning spider webs or cobwebs at the cross. If you are unfamiliar with me, I have several unconventional beliefs, and one of those is that I absolutely do believe in God. I believe in the Creator, I believe in the One, but I do not necessarily subscribe to any of the control systems. By control systems, I mean Judaism, Christianity, I mean any of the various forms thereof, I mean Buddhism, I mean Taoism. They're all the same to me. They are meant to limit you from what you are meant to do. I do believe in God. I believe that He created you. He created me. He is all of us. We are each an individualized expression of Him. We are each making decisions for the flesh suit in the being. That is the Trinity. That is what we are doing here. And I do not believe that any single person, including myself, has gotten it right. We do not fully understand the ununderstandable, and that is true. There is no way to give you my experience with God, but I have one. I talk about it often, and I have several of them. God has provided for me in very real ways. I have been provided for when there was nothing there was no reasoning for it. Things just appeared when I needed them, as I needed them, to meet a need that I had prayed for. Those are real things, but I can't give that to you. You have to find that on your own. Nietzsche wanted somebody to prove it to him. You can't prove God. It is an experiential thing. I am, in large part, walking people through how to get the experience, but even then, I cannot give it to you. I have torn apart two of the control systems, like destroyed them. You don't have to believe that. You don't have to go back and watch that. You don't have to, but it's there. I pointed out the hypocrisy in the book by which everybody says the infallible word is written. It is not. It is wrong. There are contradictions all the way through, and they are unescapable and unapologizable. But that doesn't take away from the fact that God is real. That doesn't take away from and I say fact because to me it is a fact. It doesn't take away from creation. It doesn't take away from the various things that I believe at all. But it did and does absolutely contradict with the control systems, especially the ones that were in charge when he was there. I talked before about how I believe that he was probably gay. And it was absolutely not good to be that then. They were still doing things that they do in the Middle East now with gay people. And so that it was something that you could not be around or do or express in any way, shape, or form. And of course that is going to breed bitterness. But those control systems are not God. God is separate from them. It is those control systems are man's attempt to understand God. And yes, they fail. They're human. I'm probably failing in what I talk about here, but I am trying. I don't ever try to put myself as the firm authority on this, right? I believe what I believe, and I am free and open about talking about it, about expressing all of the intricacies involved. But I still hold that I could be wrong in things. I do believe in a creator. I believe in God with an unshakable faith, and still I believe that I could be wrong. And if so, I will be proven that way on the backside. But there is, in the way that I live and the way that I believe, happiness. There is understanding. There is growth. There is maturity. There is going and doing and being without most of the judgment. Now I judge, right? I don't like ignorance. But it's not me looking at you as evil or mean, or, well, mean as evil. It is simply the fact that you don't know, and not only do you not know, but you don't even want to know. That's what really irks me. You don't have to believe what I believe, but there are indisputable facts of life. There is biology. Chromosomes are real. Some people don't believe in them. The Earth is a sphere. Some people don't believe that. There is space. Some people don't believe that. There's a sky. Some people don't believe that. I believe all of those things. I believe in God in the exact same way that I believe in those things. I don't have to understand exactly how the sky is held in place to understand that it is there, and it separates us as the waters of the deep from the waters above. I don't need a firmament set in place on a flat plane with a cup over the top. I don't need those things. Separating the control system from the underlying meaning behind them is the matter of discernment. I have walked through my process of discernment so that you can do your own thing. You do not have to agree with me in everything. I can be wrong in things. I look forward to being proven wrong in things. I like to learn. I like to grow. I like to, once I have done that, I like to dispense that. But it's for me first, and so I can't give you the experience. And that's where we're going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Again, I could probably get another one in there, but this is a good spot, and we will be back to finish up some more. Hopefully I brought a little bit of enlightenment and not too much confusion to a not so difficult set of topics. This is merely him being mad. So far, almost the entirety of this third section is him mad, bitter and mad. And that is a long step away from enlightenment. If you like what I'm doing over here, let me know down below. Give me a like, share, and a sub. Throw me a comment. Let me know if you agree or disagree. If it remains respectful, it gets to remain up. And if you really like what I'm doing out here, give me a super thanks, because I am not a communist. To the crew, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate every single minute that you are here with me, and I am praying for you every single day. Until next time, I love you. God loves you. You are perfect, whole, and complete, just the way that you are. And this has been Pit State. Peace.